"You need a home, and I need a mother for my daughter," said the lonely CEO to the ... The winter night was cruel as sea winds brushed against the hollow streets, where most people hurried home, clutching coats tightly around their bodies. But one woman didn't have a home to hurry back to. Her name was Amelia. She sat near the corner of a cafe, clutching a worn-out backpack, her thin jacket barely enough to shield her from the cold. Her eyes were tired, but her spirit wasn't completely gone. For months, Amelia had been moving from shelter to shelter, sometimes sleeping under bridges, sometimes on park benches. She once had a job, a small apartment, and dreams for her future. But life, unpredictable and often unfair, took everything away after her mother died and her fiancé abandoned her in debt. She had no one left, and tonight she was hungrier than she had ever been. Inside the cafe window behind her, warmth glowed. Families laughed, children pressed marshmallows into steaming cocoa, and couples held hands. Amelia turned her face away, not out of bitterness, but because it hurt too much to look at something she longed for, but couldn't have. That's when a little hand tugged at the cafe door. A small girl, no more than 6 years old, with curly brown hair and bright blue eyes, stepped out. She wore a red coat and mittens that made her look like a doll from a storybook. She stopped in her tracks when she saw Amelia. The girl's eyes widened with innocent concern. "Daddy," she whispered softly, pointing toward the woman on the ground. Her father, a tall man in a dark tailored coat, stepped out next. His presence commanded attention without trying. He was Ethan Cole, one of the most successful CEOs in the city, a man admired by the business world, feared by rivals, and envied by many. But tonight, as he followed his daughter's gaze, his heart sank. Amelia, shivering, looked up and tried to smile faintly. She expected pity, maybe a quick coin tossed in her direction before they walked away. But the little girl stepped closer, her mittened hand reaching out. "Daddy," she said in a trembling but sincere voice, "she looks like she needs a home." Ethan froze. Those words pierced him. It wasn't just the kindness of his daughter that struck him. It was the truth buried in them. His daughter, Lily, had been without a mother since she was 2. His wife had passed away suddenly, leaving him devastated, forced to raise a child while running an empire. He had money, success, and respect, but every night he came home to silence. His mansion felt more like a prison than a home, and though he tried, he couldn't fill the void of a mother in Lily's life. He looked down at Amelia again. She was fragile, but there was something about her, something in the way she tried to keep her dignity, even in pain. She didn't beg, she didn't complain. She just sat quietly, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, but her soul radiating strength. Ethan took a deep breath, then did something he himself couldn't believe. He crouched in front of her and said words that would change all of their lives forever. "You need a home, and I need a mother for my daughter." Amelia's breath caught. For a moment, she thought she had misheard. Was this powerful, sharply dressed man seriously saying this to her? She blinked, confused, trying to find words. I think you're mistaken," she whispered. "I'm no one. I don't have anything to give. You should help someone better than me." Ethan studied her. His instincts as a businessman told him she was sincere, not manipulative. He shook his head. "You have something money can't buy. My daughter sees it, and I feel it. You still have a heart, Amelia, that's worth more than everything I own." Her eyes welled with tears she hadn't allowed herself to shed in months. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever seen her as anything more than a burden. Over the next few weeks, Ethan brought Amelia into his home. At first, it was strange. The mansion felt overwhelming to hurt. Too big, too polished, too far from the streets she'd survived on. She doubted herself daily. She feared being judged, feared she would never fit in. But Lily changed everything. The little girl clung to Amelia like she had been waiting her whole life for her. She asked Amelia to read her bedtime stories, sat in her lap during cartoons, and held her hand everywhere they went. Slowly, Amelia began to feel something she thought she'd lost forever. Belonging. Ethan noticed, too. He saw how Lily's laughter grew louder, how the little girl slept more peacefully at night. He saw how Amelia would kneel down to help staff with chores, how she spoke gently to everyone in the house, never with arrogance. And Ethan, the man who built his empire on control, realized he was losing control not to fear or chaos, but to feelings he hadn't allowed himself in years. He was falling for Amelia, but life doesn't hand out miracles without testing them first. The world began to whisper. Headlines spread. Billionaire CEO takes in homeless woman. The business world mocked him. Tabloids called her a gold digger, and investors questioned his judgment. One evening, Ethan's board of directors confronted him. "She ruined your reputation," they said. "You need to think of the company, not your personal life." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had built his company brick by brick, endured sleepless nights, and made sacrifices most men couldn't imagine. But looking through the glass window of the boardroom, he saw Lily laughing with Emilio in the garden. And in that moment, he knew no amount of profit could outweigh what truly mattered. He turned back to the board. His voice was steady but firm. "You think she ruined me? You're wrong. She saved me. For years, I had money, power, and everything you think matters. But I was empty. My daughter was growing up without love. That woman out there gave us life again. If you can't respect that, then maybe I don't need you, because family comes first." The battle wasn't easy. The criticism didn't vanish overnight. But Amelia, for the first time in her life, refused to run. She stood beside Ethan, not because of his wealth, but because of the man he became when he chose love over pride. And slowly, the whispers faded. People saw the truth, saw how genuine Amelia was, how she never cared for luxury, how she only cared for Lily and Ethan. She wasn't a charity case. She was the missing piece of their family. Months later, in the same cafe where fate had brought them together, Ethan knelt down on one knee in front of Amelia, holding Lily's tiny hand as she giggled with excitement. "Amelia," Ethan said, voice trembling with emotion, "that night I told you that you needed a home and I needed a mother for my daughter. But I was wrong. What I really needed was you." Amelia's tears fell freely as she whispered, "Yes." The mansion was no longer a hollow palace. It was a home filled with laughter, warmth, and the love of a family that destiny had written in the unlikeliest way. And Amelia learned something she wished the world would never forget. Sometimes life takes everything away, not to break you, but to make space for something greater. Love, family, purpose. Final message for the audience. It doesn't matter how broken, lost, or forgotten you feel today. One moment, one choice, one act of kindness can change everything. You may think you're at the end of your story, but sometimes it's just the beginning.